me start by thanking all of you for coming. You have no idea what kind of an audience is here, and I urge you to meet the people in this room because it is absolutely amazing to have all of you together under one roof. Absolutely amazing. We're so blessed to have all of you here. So without further ado, it is with great honor to introduce to you our next speaker. He is a magnificent civil rights worker in Florida, and I've had the pleasure of working with him and being on panels with him and see him fiercely advocate for civil rights. So Mr. Wilfredo Ruiz is the Communications Director for CAIR-Florida, the Council on American Islamic Relations in Florida. CAIR-Florida is the state's largest Muslim civil liberties and advocacy organization. He previously served as its council rights legal counsel for over 4 years. He's also a board member of the Interfaith Workers Justice in Florida. Mr. Ruiz obtained his BA and JD degrees from the University of Puerto Rico and formalized graduate studies in religion at the Hartford Seminary in Connecticut, where he was admitted to the master's degree program in Islam and Christian Muslim relations. During 1993 to 1997, Ruiz served as the officer for the U.S. Navy Judge Advocate General's Corps, where he acted as a defense and legal assistance counsel. Along with his honorable discharge, he was awarded the Navy Achievement Medal in 1997. In 2005, Ruiz rejoined the Navy as a naval officer in the U.S. Navy Chaplain Candidate Officers Corps. Mr. Ruiz was a columnist and blogger for multiple newspapers and electronic media outlets. He regularly engages in public presentations at colleges, universities, theological seminaries, and schools, as well as professional and governmental and civic institutions on a variety of topics, including protection of civil liberties, religion, legal, and foreign policies. He has been interviewed and quoted by local, national, and international media outlets on diverse issues on civil rights, politics in the Middle East and the Muslim world, Islam and Christian Muslim relations. He has been featured on dozens of national and international media outlets. It is an honor and pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Wilfredo Amr Ruiz.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm so glad to be here with you all. Alhamdulillah. Good afternoon, dear brothers and sisters. With their voices filled with conviction and faith, projected many times from the pulpit of the street, two preachers were able to bring unity in purpose as they both repudiated racism and called for freedom and justice. They dreamed, and their dreams translated into words, their words into action, sweat, blood, and tears. Their eloquent voices are still heard in classrooms, political reunions, civil activists meetings, churches, mosques, synagogues all around the world, the globe. Today, their teachings and legacies honored and cherished before this internationally recognized political venue of excellence, the United Nations, a place meant to foster dialogue and diplomacy, prevent conflict, and avoid war. In its 1945 charter, the United Nations reads that among its purposes is to promote and encourage respect for human rights and for the fundamental freedoms for all, without distinction in regards of race, sex, language, or religion. Values embraced by both Dr. Martin Luther King and Malik al-Hajj Sabath, Malcom X. Dr. Luther King became his generation's leader of a resistance movement. It was a resistance against inequalities, oppression, racism, bigotry, and other mutations of slavery. Reverend King demonstrated his extraordinary resolve on numerous occasions, from the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955 through 1956, to his successful campaigns to enact change in Montgomery, Birmingham, and Selma, Alabama. His mission towards equality and his integrity and exemplary commitment are considered to these days as the catalyst for this nation's civil rights movement. Today, we continue to honor and remember Dr. King's legacy with our own personal commitments to social action. A commitment based on morals, ethics, and values that, after all, essentially distinguishes citizens of the world who embrace peace from those who try to sow discord, hate, and injustice. And you may be asking yourselves now, where is my place? What can I do? And when you finally decide that the defense of equality, justice, and freedom is a journey we must take now, allow me to caution you with Reverend King's words. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step towards the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals. I respectfully call all of you to embark on this journey of justice and freedom as dedicated and as the dedicated and dependable defender. While honoring Dr. King's legacy, we must remember, as he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor, it must be demanded by the oppressed. My reiterated advice, dear brothers and sisters, is not only to learn from Reverend King's words, but to commit today, not a minute later, to the principles enshrined on them. Our beloved brother Malcom X, Malik al-Shabazz, stood firm and active for the protection of human rights and fundamental freedoms. He hoped for change and that a new path will emerge for a new generation of citizens so that they could find betterment in their lives and liberties. No sooner were laws enacted promising equity for all, we saw the dark shadow of hate, racism, and xenophobia rush to cover the newfound freedoms and threaten every man and woman and child's life and well-being. As this continues to happen today, we remember that Malcom X exhorted the oppressed to resist and cast off the shackles of racism. He said, "I believe in human beings and that all human beings should be respected as such, regardless of their color." Malcolm became a true leader of the American civil rights movement. He respected Dr. King very much, as he affirmed, "Dr. King wants the same things I want, freedom." Malcolm represented and led a movement not only as a domestic national issue, but also as a global one against oppression, injustice, and anti-colonial struggle. He affirmed that there is no more apartheid in South Africa than there is here in the United States. He was able to effectively project the struggles of people around the world, which, by the way, are still prevalent to this day around the globe. before his assassination on February 21st, 1965, not far from here, at the Audubon Ballroom here in Manhattan. Malcolm was clear that justice and freedom will not be easy to acquire. He saw the struggle and challenges as a life journey, a journey I call on all of you to embark and commit to. And as we continue on this life journey, we must be mindful of justice, the path towards success. And we must keep our hearts and mind open and unafraid of criticism. Malcolm reminded us, if you have no critics, you will likely have no success. We shall embrace our struggle for justice, joining those who are really and truly committed, while evading those who might become an obstacle against truth. Malcolm said, I believe in the brotherhood of all men, but if I don't believe I don't believe in wasting brotherhood on anyone who doesn't want to practice it with me. Brotherhood is a two-way street. Brothers and sisters, today this mission is ours. As Malcolm said, you don't have to be a man to fight for freedom. All you have to do is to be an intelligent human being. We cannot be afraid to assume our responsibilities out of fear of defeat, as the opposers of these times will surely come. But Malcolm taught us there is no better than adversity. Every defeat, every heartbreak, every loss contains its own seed, its own lesson on how to improve performance the next time. Malcolm also reminded us that stumbling is not falling. So stand firm and do not be afraid to stumble at times, because when you get back on your feet, we become stronger. My beloved brothers and sisters, the most transcendental thing about Reverend King and Malcolm X is not what they did, but what they continue to do by inspiring and moving people of all races and in every place. Those without religious belief or with religious belief. These 20th century African American icons stood firm and literally offered their lives, struggling against oppression, racism, and against the impunity of the oppressors. We are called today to carry on with the resistance movements against the modern and disguised forms of oppression and tyranny that threaten our freedom and civil rights today. Most of the modern threats against our civil liberties and human rights are real, but are not always apparent. We now commonly witness these injustices undercovered with the banner of false patriotism and false nationalism and the malicious interpretations of the religions of peace. As we mourn and honor Dr. King and Malcolm's legacy, we reflect on the words of our Almighty Creator found in the book of the Criterion, our beloved Quran. On its translation, it reads, "O you who believe, be maintainers of justice, bearers of witnesses of Allah's sake, though it may be against your own selves, or your parents, or near relatives, if he be rich or poor. Allah is nearer to them both in compassion. Therefore, do not follow your low desires, lest you deviate. And if you swerve or turn aside, then surely Allah is aware of what you do." Our moral call to action today, like that of Dr. King and Malcolm X, is to uphold justice and resist. We must commit to protect their legacy After all, their legacy on equality, justice, and freedom are those we carry today in our hearts and minds and daily lives. Our freedoms, our liberties are, after all, an integral part of our humanity. In our beloved Prophet Muhammad's last admonition, he reminded us that all mankind come from Adam and Eve. An Arab have no superiority over a non-Arab. A white have no superiority over a black, and a black have no superiority over a white man. The superiority of man come except but by piety and good actions. Our shared humanity calls us to accept and dignify each other. No human being comes from a shithole country. All men and women are designated by our Creator to become the vice-regents of this earth. We must always have present that attacks against our humanity are a direct affront against justice. I pray Allah to allow us to become flag bearers of justice and freedom and never be of those who stand ill or worse, of those who condone and validate injustice. My dear brothers and sisters, my friends, the time has come to accept and embrace those exemplary men's invitation to stand up for justice now. Go and tell your friends that you want to hear their voices, that you want to see them standing with you, and that you want to feel their hearts and souls in solidarity with you. Remember Dr. King's words. In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
ITV, Call of Peace.